Hello everyone. Today I am discussing a topic that relates pretty closely to the Leo full moon. It's January 28th, 2021. With the sun in Aquarius and the moon in Leo, I want to discuss the orientation of the individual versus the team. Okay? So this is a very important concept that we're running into in this day and age with the fixed attitude, two fixed signs, that some people have about joining the team to do a socially responsible act. It sets up as this Leo new full moon with the individual thinking they're an island unto themselves. And as we know, with the Aquarian energy, that is not the case. No man is an island. So I'm discussing something here today. It's a climate article. It's from the website resilience.org, and I will try to type that into the comments sections for people to see. If there's any questions, please feel free to add them into the comments. Why I am doing this is because, okay, Aquarius is about science. Right now we have Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius, so the emphasis is on science and social responsibility. Okay, this is key. And this Leo full moon, many times when you're reading a Leo full moon, you're like talking about, well, it says, do yourself. Don't let people talk you out of doing, your will, what you want. But it has to be balanced with the Aquarius. It's not just one-sided. This is a full moon. So it shouldn't be a tug of war between the Aquarian energy and the Leo energy. It should be a balance. The individual, yes, wants to lead their life, lead Leo, according to their will. However, we are an individual within a system, within a system, within a system, and within a system. That's just life. So this here article is just a dab, just a small example of how teamwork, Aquarius, can assist the individual to be ready for the already happening climate catastrophes, the scenarios of weather disruption that we're already experiencing. So I'm going to start reading, and I forgot to put the title on here, but I'll try to give it to you afterwards. But like I said, it's from resilience.org, and I will get the title on here. Here we go. Preparedness and resilience have always been an interest to the organizing team of Transition Longfellow. The group, Aquarius, I co-founded in South Minneapolis, Minnesota in 2010. We hosted community movie nights and book groups and brought in speakers to talk about climate change and many other transition topics. These activities were well advertised, and we had good visibility in our neighborhood of 20,000 people. That visibility paid off when in 2016, the city of Minneapolis was chosen by the Rockefeller Foundation to be part of its 100 Resilient Cities project. Now, I want to say, resilience, that is not going to be something, what they're here talking about here, aren't things that's going to slow climate change or stop climate change. That's another whole issue, okay? What we're talking about is how to make you and your family and your neighborhood resilient against the kinds of climate catastrophes that can happen. Okay. They were looking for community input into their climate planning process, and they asked our neighborhood association for help. The neighborhood association asked if we would partner with the city health department on their project, for which we would be paid $500. Of course we would. Our first big project. I worked with the executive director of the neighborhood next to ours to define what our event would look like and to recruit participants. The city wanted to ensure that they were reaching a truly representative group of residents, so they gave us very specific instructions about who to recruit to our dinner workshop held in the community room at a local restaurant. We needed to find 15 people who matched our community demographics by race, age, income, education, immigration status, work status, and disability status, all Aquarius. It's inclusive. This is Aquarius. That's the Aquarius energy, inclusiveness. It took us weeks, but we were able to recruit our 15 diverse participants. Some were active in Transition Longfellow and some were not. Participant knowledge of climate change ranged from "I know a lot" to "if climate change was real, the city would have put a flyer on my door telling me about it. They haven't, so it's not." Our evening program began with a screening of parts of Minnesota Stories in a Changing Climate, a television program created by the Minnesota Department of Health and our local public television station. Then we broke into small groups and talked about the weather changes we have seen that concerned us the most, specific neighborhood vulnerabilities, community needs, and community assets. Climate and health scenario, storm and flooding. It's been an unusually rainy July, and the ground is already saturated when the National Weather Service issues a flash flood warning telling residents to avoid travel. But many people aren't paying attention. They don't realize when they get into their cars how quickly the water can rise and cause damage to the vehicles. The Greenway, a common route for bikers in the neighborhood, is also prone to flooding. Residents who have had water in their basements from previous downpours are feeling dread and getting out the wetback and towels. They hope that the electricity doesn't go out again, which would make the vacuum and sump pump useless. They can still smell the mold and musk from the previous water intrusion. As the storms worsen, tree branches break and then entire trees begin to fall, taking the power lines down with them. Roadways are blocked. Water begins to bubble up from the storm sewer and inches of rain fill the streets. Q. Question. What kind of safety and health outcomes do you want for your neighborhood in this scenario? At the table that had transition team fellow members, the groups were not starting from scratch. Transition folks already had ideas that other community members expanded on. People were engaged, even excited. Most important, for the purposes of the city, they had clear ideas about what the community could do for itself and what the city needed to do. Now, there is a table here, and it's got information on it that's very helpful. And when you go to the article to look it up, you'll be able to find it. When it printed, I can't read it, so it's too small. But it's very helpful, so you might want to look this up. After hearing what the results of other community workshops, I began convinced that the way that local governments engage community members too often does not allow average people to make their best contributions. So it doesn't allow for an individual input in the best way, So that could be a creative, Leo, way to, or work on the creativity of each individual to come up with their methods and new ideas and to lead parts of the group, so that it's not always just, complete team, but then have somebody do a separate project on their own and bring it in, something along those lines, so that the Leo part doesn't feel left out. See? More of us need more information delivered repeatedly over time in a way that focuses on practical solutions. Taking it deeper. I went back to the Transition Longfellow core team, Aquarius again, with an idea for a longer, deeper dive into climate change. More science, Aquarius, with a focus on adaptation. I recruited a team that included a therapist, a neighbor who was a scientist with the state health department. It was her first engagement with Transition Longfellow. A new volunteer who helped with logistics, and 2 young women whose great contribution was to push us to improve the look of our marketing. Looking back, I wish we had a graphic designer on the team. The entire team met for 2 months in the winter of 2017 to develop a 6-part speaker series, When Climate Change Comes Home to the Individual. Then some volunteers dropped away, leaving only 3 of us to deliver the program. Fortunately, that was just enough to pull it off. So, of course, it's really hard for a group to stay together for months that, how everybody has their own life, pressures to pull them away. But I was thinking that just now before I turned on the camera, a way to keep people involved might be to offer to do some task or chore if you can to help them so that they have more time. A trade off. Like if you come to our meeting and do this little task here for us, then we'll come over and help you, collect some of your tomatoes or babysit, I don't know, something, or clean your eaves, help clean your eaves, just different things. Anything you can come up with to help the person that's helping you in the group so that they don't have to worry about things taking them away from the group. Okay? Just a thought, and how you could work it out is up to you. Our goal was to educate our community about exactly what climate impacts we would be experiencing and when. We were armed with the information from our state climatologists and our state health department, but we didn't want to just talk science. We wanted to focus on real-world impacts. Again, how it affects the individual, because this is the way you're going to get people involved. If they keep thinking it's other people over there that it's happening to, they're not going to care. Everything needed to be practical, and every session needed to include solutions. Okay, April. Climate change in your health. Our state climate adaptation specialist and our scientists from the state health department talked about climate change and how it will likely impact our health. You can see a videotape of the climate and health workshop. May. When May showers turned to floods. We shared real-life stories of flood damage in our neighborhood. I lost my car in a flash flood just blocks from my home. A neighbor was paralyzed after being struck by a storm sewer cover that blew out from the pressure of a heavy rainfall. Our speakers included a city engineer who explained that the city was doing what the city was doing to reduce flooding, and safety officer from the fire department who talked about how to act in a flash flood situation. And we learned from a business owner about a new method of waterproofing basements at a lower cost. June. It was a dark and stormy night. Severe storms and tornadoes are typical in June. In 2013, a severe storm blew down 350 trees in our neighborhood, and thousands were without electricity for a week or more. Our speakers talked about storm safety and how to prepare to live without electricity for a week. How will you power your phone? What will you do with food in the fridge? July. The heat is on. Our speakers, a medical doctor, a veterinarian, and a master gardener, talked about how to protect the people, animals, and plants we love. How do you cool down your chickens? Misters, shade, a kiddie pool, cold water, to name a few methods. Things that people might not just think about right offhand, especially if you're not a big-time farmer. You're going to go, oh my gosh, my chickens are really hot, and you got to figure out what to do. We happen to have a stream right behind the house, but if it dries up, you're in trouble. That's what happened to us this summer, 2020. It was so dry in my area, forget it. The streams, there was nothing for a couple of months, maybe 3 months. There was nothing in them, almost nothing. It got down to nothing. You could sit down there and powder yourself with the dirt in the middle of the stream. That's how dry it was. So, yeah, we have water. We always give the chickens, and then when they were running loose, we do that sometimes. We have a big container out there by the outdoor water faucet, and we run it, and they can drink whatever they want. So, let's see. A medical doctor, a veterinarian, a master gardener. Okay, I think I read that. Okay. September, insect and waterborne illness. The best part of this session with a guest speaker from our state health department was getting to see vials with wood ticks showing the size they are when they are capable of spreading Lyme's disease. Our state has many new tick-borne diseases that few people know about, but every parent should know. So there's more than one kind of disease, it seems. I think I've heard that in the past. October, Preparedness Fair. The series ended with a preparedness fair where each table showed an example of the supplies a household might want to have in their home or car. Our city health department also gave us things we could give away, the first aid books, etc. We created a two-part handout. On one half of the page, participants could write the actions they were going to take at home. On the other side, they wrote down ideas about what we needed to do as a community. They handed that side in at the end of the session. So they get to interact with their community, with others surrounding them, to let them know more specifically what their individual ideas and needs are. Okay, so it's getting specific down to the individual, along with teamwork. Okay, Transition Longfellow connected climate change to the things our neighbors love and care about the most: their children's health, their chickens and vegetable gardens, their homes and favorite businesses. While doing so, we were able to connect in meaningful ways with our city and state health departments, and we had the pleasure of hearing from participants about actions they took in response to what they learned. From learning to doing. Hearing about how to prepare for climate emergencies is one thing, doing the work is another. I partnered with Lisa Strong, a scientist with a deep personal interest in preparedness. We created an email series to help people finish their preparedness actions by taking just a few steps every week over the course of a year. We rolled it out in January 2018. Example of a newsletter. Okay, one week we asked people to identify how to shut off their electricity if their basement was flooded. Another week we'd advise parents to create a meetup plan and to practice using the fire escape with their children. The series ended with an advice on creating an emergency pantry. This is really important. A little bit at a time, if people had done the actions in each email, they would have been prepared not only for the weather-related disasters, but probably for COVID-19 to a certain extent. 120 people signed up for the initial email services, and it lives online as Solutions Focus. Preparedness Challenge on the Transition Longfellow website. Let me read that again because I didn't read that very well. 120 people signed up for the initial email series, and it lives online at Solutions Focus, Preparedness Challenge on the Transition Longfellow website. I mean, this is some other town, but in case you wanted to look at it more, you could go there and see more of what they've done. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit in 2020, Lisa and I shared the email series again with friends to help them think about what should go in their emergency pantry. If your group wants to do work like this. All right, here we go. Climate preparedness and adaptation work is excellent for transition groups, Aquarius, to do for several reasons. Transition's practical solution-oriented approach makes it easier for people to take in difficult climate change information. There you go. The more that people who know science meet up and work with one-to-one with people who don't accept a lot of what science is and don't understand it, or just don't have a lot of time to read, that's why I do these, and that's why some of the people that I've been watching over the years who do videos just by reading the climate articles, I can mop the floor and wash the dishes and, do little chores while I'm listening. I don't have to sit and read all the time, okay? I do that with astrology videos too. Okay, so Transition's practical solution-oriented approach makes it easier for people to take in difficult climate change information. We weren't just telling people problems, we were giving them solutions. Transition isn't out for a quick win. Our group was there for years, offering different ways to engage so people had multiple opportunities to learn. Transition doesn't just give people information, it gives them a community where they can continue to talk to others. We're building relationship capital. That is the key. That is like the best part of this whole article, those two words, relationship capital. I've been doing that in my neighborhood since about 2007 or 6, or so. It started somewhat in that area because there was so much going on even then, and I was learning about climate change. And that was just the beginning of my learning, and I still knew I had to establish a good, connected relationship with my neighbors. There's a store owner on the corner over there, otherwise it's very rural. Well, across the way there's a farm machinery place, and then there's houses around. But and different people have come and gone within the 17 years I've been here. But I always walk. I've been walking, well, I used to be running and I bike, but I do it all the time, and everybody recognizes, oh, there she goes, she's walking. And I stop and I talk to neighbors. And I've been doing this for a very long time, so they kind of, even though I have in this area somewhat of a reputation of being an oddball to some degree because, most people don't. They know I study astrology. I have a Facebook page, and I study climate change, and I used to try to talk about climate change at my kids' sports events when they were younger, and I didn't really go over very well because nobody wanted to pay attention. They thought they think you're a kook. Not so much anymore, probably, but anyway, that was a long time ago. But yeah, connect with your neighbors. I know it's gonna be hard, especially in the political climate that we live in. Speaking of climates that are difficult, but yeah, the store owner down on the corner, he completely the opposite of me on the political scale, but we need to really connect. And to tell you the truth, another woman next to me, we used to walk our dogs together, and mine died, but she wrote me a letter recently. Yeah, and she had told me that she was a Mormon because I broke out into a little climate stuff one day when we were walking, and she was like, "Oh, she's talking about what she believed about how we could be helped." And I'm not gonna push anything. So then she writes me this letter, and she wanted to connect. And she's trying to show me the website for the. Oh, she's a Mormon, but that's what I was getting at. She's a Mormon. You can't shut people out, especially if they live next door to you. That's not going to be helpful down the road. You have to learn to be inclusive. That's the Aquarian energy. You have to accept people and be able to do that balance, the individual to other to the group. You have to be able to do that. In a group, there's lots of different kinds of people with different kinds of thinking. So you're going to have to get used to that. And the better or the earlier you start now to make those connections, that's relationship capital you're building. And it makes up for a lot. It really does. I'm telling you. I've experienced it. Oh, and that letter, this is the odd thing. I have to throw this in there. They changed where our mail in this area goes. It used to go to a town like 30 miles away and get sorted and come back, right? Well, she lives right next door, and she actually sent that in the mail. And I guess because of COVID, whatever, I don't know. And it has to go to a place now that's almost 2 hours away and come back. That was weird. I saw the post, postal tracking on there. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it had to go all the way up there. I remember when that changed, and it just goes to show she lives right next door, but it had to go to Syracuse and come back to here. That's 2 hours away. It's ridiculous. Anyways, here we go. This is the end. If we did it again, the teamwork, the group meeting, we would do a few things differently with the speaker series. The team needed to be larger. If we had retained all of our volunteers, it would have put much less strain on the 3 who wound up doing all the work. We had hoped to hire a videographer and/or a graphic artist to capture the workshops on paper. We wrote a grant request, but it was not funded. Financial support to hire those professionals would have expanded our reach by allowing us to put a video of the programs on our website, and we could have used this artwork for continued engagement at the community events. Your project certainly doesn't have to be as big as this, but recognize the value of engaging with people repeatedly over time, so they have time to do what needs to be done. There's actually no rush. Just start with something. You could create something like the Transition Longfellow email series adjusted for your community's climate challenges, or you could start a group and use the Transition Us Ready Together workbook. So that is it. And the title, so that you can pick out the right one, let me bring up my phone. When I copied and pasted it, I left out the title. Silly me. Here we go. Like I said, it is oh dear, I hate typing on my phone. I turned up, okay. Okay. Of course, just because I'm on video, something a little screwy. Okay. Here we go. So, in other words, the key there is if you can get yourself to visit 1 or 2 or 3 neighbors, that would make a whole difference in your outlook for the future. You're going to have to remember that group Aquarius energy requires everyone to work hard at understanding the differences between people, but yet our commonality. If you're a parent and you have children, you're going to want to have your neighborhood working as a team. Trust me. And this full moon, you won't see this on the full moon, but I'm at least making it on the full moon because I probably won't get this uploaded today because I have to go back to work. But this full moon is just one example of the energy necessary to connect the individual with the group. That's really important. And so, try not to just watch the video and keep it in your head and kind of not start. You could write down ideas. You don't have to get out there right away because like in the north it's cold and everything, right now. But just write down some of your ideas because Aquarius is an idea time, right? And over time, maybe when Aries comes around and it gets warmer and maybe the whole COVID thing will lessen a little bit. I mean, yes, at this point, I should throw this out here. Of course, we have COVID, so it's going to be a lot harder to try to get anything going. But the paperwork, the structuring it on paper, and connecting with somebody even through Zoom or whatever, could be the best way to go for you. And if anybody, that way you'll flesh out too different people that you may know who would be interested, who would be committed, and this is all the time to do that. You could do it through all kinds of, internet connecting to find those people that would want to do this because they need to be fairly committed. I'm getting there. That's right here somewhere. Oh dear, come on. It's not this far back, is it? Fairness. Like some of the other titles are Perennial Turn, Contemporary Essays from the Field. They're talking about wheat and grasses and stuff like that. A Brief History of Consumer Culture. Okay, come on. I hope if you hear that, my husband's on the phone with his family upstairs, so yeah. Oh dear. Come on, load some more. I said load more. Anyways, again, now, I did want to mention, with Mars in Taurus, we've got this T-square going, so it's really important that in your mind, you're working on whatever block there may be in relation to Earth-oriented thinking. I mean, you've got Uranus and Mars and Taurus squaring this full moon, so it is a good time to recognize what you might be missing in regard to the science involved in climate change. If you're not aware how much you might need to catch up and learn about in the long run, and come to terms with a higher understanding, Uranus and Taurus, of the Earth, have a eureka moment. That's Uranus and Taurus. A eureka moment having to do with Taurus, the Earth, and the science involved, the physics. I mean, you don't have to be a physics major or a physics professor, but there's different kinds of situations that you can do